On November 5, 1994, a 45-year-old George Foreman stepped into the ring against 26-year-old Michael Moorer, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. Most people thought it was a joke. Foreman was nearly 20 years older, slower, and visibly heavier. Analysts ridiculed the matchup. On November 5, 1994, a 45-year-old George Foreman stepped into the ring against 26-year-old Michael Moorer, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. Most people thought it was a joke. Foreman was nearly 20 years older, slower, and visibly heavier. Analysts ridiculed the matchup. Commentators called it a circus. Foreman didn't win a single clear round on the judges' scorecards. Yet in the 10th round, with the entire world watching in disbelief, he delivered a single right hand that shocked the boxing world and completed one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. To understand that punch-one punch that crowned him the oldest heavyweight champion of all time, you have to understand the years of heartbreak, reinvention, faith, bankruptcy, and refusal to quit that led him to that moment. This is the untold story of how George Foreman lost everything, walked away for a decade, and returned to reclaim the heavyweight throne at an age no one believed possible. In the early 1970s, George Foreman wasn't just a champion. He was a storm, a true knockout force of nature, an Olympic gold medalist, undefeated, terrifyingly powerful, and seemingly invincible. He knocked out Joe Frazier in 2 rounds, crushed Ken Norton in just 2, and was widely considered one of the most dangerous heavyweights ever seen. By 1974, the world expected Foreman to dominate the division for years. And then came the fight that changed everything. The Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire. Foreman versus Muhammad Ali. Foreman entered as the destroyer, the unbeatable puncher. Ali, already a legend, played the underdog while quietly preparing one of the most brilliant strategies in boxing history. The rope-a-dope Ali let Foreman punch and punch and punch, absorbing the attacks on his arms and elbows until the young champion exhausted himself in the African heat. By the 8th round, as George slowed, Ali whispered, "Is that all you got, George?" Then Ali struck with a lightning-fast combination. The final blow toppled Foreman and shattered his aura of invincibility. That defeat didn't just cost him a title, it left him with a wound no training camp could fix. He fought on, but the terrifying, unstoppable version of George Foreman was gone. The loss haunted him. His confidence cracked. In 1977, after losing to Jimmy Young, Foreman returned to his dressing room in Puerto Rico, exhausted, dehydrated, and spiritually broken. There, he collapsed. He later described an out-of-body experience, one that felt like death before turning into a powerful spiritual awakening. Whether people believed the story or not didn't matter. George believed it. That moment changed him forever. At just 28 years old, Foreman retired from boxing. He didn't just quit the sport, he walked away from the persona, the anger, the aggression, everything that once defined him. He became a preacher in Houston, Texas. He opened a youth center to help kids find a path in life. He fed families, mentored troubled kids, and lived a life many never imagined for a former heavyweight champion. But there was a problem the public didn't see. Foreman was going broke. Despite the millions he earned in his fighting career, mismanagement, bad investments, taxes, and the costs of running his youth center drained his savings. He didn't complain. He didn't blame anyone. But one day, his accountant told him the truth. "George, the money is gone." Foreman later said he realized he couldn't keep his youth center alive without finding a way to earn again. And suddenly, the idea that once seemed ridiculous became necessary. In 1987, at nearly 40 years old, George Foreman announced he was making a comeback to boxing. The sports world laughed. Newspapers published cartoons. Late-night hosts mocked him. Fans called him desperate. But Foreman wasn't driven by fame or ego. He said, "I had to fight so they wouldn't have to." He wanted to save his youth center and restore his financial stability. When he returned, he didn't look like the George Foreman of the 1970s. He was heavier, slower, and older. But he was also smiling, radiantly smiling. He joked with reporters, charmed fans, and revealed a personality he never showed during his angry younger years. The public, shockingly, fell in love with him, and in the ring, the man could still punch like a sledgehammer. Foreman began stacking knockout after knockout. He defeated Steve Zuski. He blasted Gary Cooney. He won fight after fight, not with speed, but with power, craft, and calm experience. By 1991, he shockingly earned a title shot against Evander Holyfield. Most experts predicted he'd be destroyed. Instead, he went the full 12 rounds. He didn't win, but he proved something bigger. George Foreman belonged in the ring, no matter his age. Still, the clock was ticking. Foreman was now deep into his 40s. Most fighters retire before they're 35. Foreman was pushing 45. Yet he kept training, kept believing, kept chasing the ultimate comeback. And then came the night of November 5, 1994. His opponent, Michael Moorer, was 26, young, fast, undefeated, and entering his prime. Foreman, wearing the same red trunks he wore when Ali beat him 20 years earlier, stepped into a fight nearly everyone declared unwinnable. Moorer dominated the early rounds, snapping Foreman's head back with jabs and combinations. Commentators mocked the idea that Foreman had any chance. Foreman barely threw punches, moving slowly, absorbing punishment, waiting, watching, studying, and then it happened. In the 10th round, Moorer lazily drifted into the path Foreman wanted. Foreman stepped forward, planted his feet, and fired a short, compact right hand, one of the most perfectly timed punches in heavyweight history. Moorer collapsed instantly. The referee counted. Moorer stayed down. The world erupted. George Foreman, at 45 years old, became the oldest heavyweight champion of all time, the first man ever to lose the title, retire for a decade, and then win it back 20 years later. He didn't jump on the ropes. He didn't scream. He simply knelt in silent prayer, humbled by the journey that brought him full circle. Most people would retire with glory after that. Foreman did something else. He built an empire. In the mid-1990s, a company approached him with a new indoor grill that drained fat from meat. They needed a celebrity endorsement. Hulk Hogan reportedly turned it down. George didn't. He became the face of the George Foreman grill, a product that exploded worldwide. Foreman earned more money from the grill than he ever did in boxing. In 1999, he sold the rights to his name for an estimated $137 million, cementing him as one of the wealthiest athletes in history. George Foreman's life story is not just a sports story. It's a story of resilience, renewal, and redemption. He rose from a rough childhood to become a world champion. He fell to Ali, lost his identity, and nearly lost his life. He walked away, became a preacher, and then faced financial ruin. And instead of collapsing under the weight of failure, he reinvented himself completely. He returned to the ring at nearly 40, captured the heavyweight title at 45, and built a multi-million-dollar business empire in his 50s. His life proved something the world often forgets. You are never too old to begin again. You are never too far gone to find purpose. And you are never finished, not at 28, not at 38, and certainly not at 45. This is the untold story of George Foreman, the man who turned defeat into destiny, faith into strength, and a single punch into one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. He is a living lesson that our greatest defeats can be the seeds of our greatest triumphs, that it's never too late to rewrite your story, and that sometimes the most powerful punch you'll ever throw isn't thrown in a ring at 25, but is landed with the wisdom of a 45-year-old man who knew that the true fight was never for a title, but for a second chance. Fade to black.